Hi, everybody. We're here for another amazing episode for the Love of Health web show, where I get the chance to talk to holistic health practitioners, coaches, consultants, therapists, and service based leaders. Yeah, the whole gamut. And we just get to talk about how they're doing what they're doing, how they got to where they're at, and what's going forward with them. What are they doing? I'm here with Annie Bush today, and I'm excited, Annie. We're talking today about your company and some of the products you're offering, specifically like around DNA testing and working with people's genetics, right?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a fun, and I hope your audience finds it interesting conversation about their DNA. So if you want me to go ahead and just get started with my story and we can just start from there.
Yes, that would be great. I definitely would love to hear how you got to where you're at in your business. Like why this focus and why it's working.
Well, originally, when you get to be my age, you've been through a few careers. And I started out in the legal space. I was a legal clerk, I was a paralegal. Went to law school at the age of 40 and became an attorney for the state of Florida for quite a few years. And like a lot of us that are in this health and wellness space, we got here either because of a personal health issue or a health issue of a family member. And both of my parents got cancer. And my father got cancer and he passed away. And then my mother got cancer. And I moved in with her and I started taking her to her chemo treatments and got to see front row and center how the traditional medical industry was treating her or not. So I was taking her over there to get her chemo, and there was baskets of candy and cookies and all this sugar. And I was like, wait a minute, sugar feeds cancer. And so here we are giving her chemo to kill it and giving her sugar to create it. And I knew then that I needed to do something. I got frustrated, then I got angry, and then the call to action. So that's when I switched over from the legal field into health and wellness and went through a traditional kind of track, personal trainer, health coach. And then I started specializing in brain health, because without your brain, you don't have anything. And then realizing that everything that happens from the neck down affects everything from the neck up, really started looking at longevity and how the body ages or how the body deteriorates. For me, that's what aging is. It's just the accumulation of cellular damage. It's not your chronological age. How much are you rusting? How much are you falling apart? And so from a preventative standpoint, it's like, okay, so how can we prevent this cellular destruction, right? And then that's when I found 3x4 genetics and using your DNA as your blueprint for your health management life program.
That's great. And it is a contributing factor. It is a big part of that pizza pie of statistics, right? We have the 80% lifestyle, 20% genetics. Like, it does make a difference, and the technology is now available. So yeah, I think you really beautifully put that, the cellular damage, the accumulation of that. And I think it all really ties well to the story of your family and the cancer. And I can see you very, very visibly in that space of like thinking about like the treatments that they were doing, but also seeing the neglect that was apparent at these things with the candy and the poor nutrition choices, like the total like non visible nutrition conversation that was happening at that time. And it actually does really
Exactly.
segue well into your past career with law. I can see you being someone who understands how things like very like formally and like black and white and the way it looks in that situation, but also a sense of like presence that you are now bringing to your entrepreneurial journey, a sense of conviction as well. So I love that. That's a great story.
And I tell everyone, we are the accumulation of every skill set we've ever accumulated, right? And we bring that with us. So My training as an attorney trained me how to read a lot of information, to be able to assimilate a lot of information, understand it, organize it, and apply it. So whether it's legal information, or it's genetic information, it's the same skill set. It's being able to sit down and absorb and apply. And then, the importance of podcasts like this is getting the information out to empower people to make their own decisions, to take control of their own health. And this is where the genetics now has become a game changer. I almost think that you hand a mother a birth certificate for her child, you should be handing her their genetics too, because your genetics never change. It's the blueprint that you were born with. And you can use your genetics to make every single choice that you make every single day about anything that you put into your mouth, anything that you eat and drink, any exercise that you do, whether you decide to go for a walk or go for a run or do yoga, right? Every decision, you can look at your genetics and say, okay, what is going to best serve me today?
Well, we definitely see that shift in society right now with the whole, release and recovery from the pandemic. People want to work, they're learning. They're actually not just saying work hard, play smarter. They're actually now working smarter. And I think that how the work of this feeds into healthcare is kind of huge, right? I mean, just like, know your things, know when not to do certain things based on this, like you said, a blueprint. So in the mental health field too, we hear these terms, genetic markers. Does that have anything to do with what you're talking about?
Yes, we have probably 25,000 different genes, and with about 3 to 4 million variations among those 25,000 genes. Now you get one from your mother and one from your father, so you get the contributors from both sides. 99.9% of us are all the same. It's that 0.1% that makes us different. And that's where the genetics really come into play, is that 0.1%. And what 3x4 has done is taken your genetics, and instead of just handing you a whole bunch of data, they have grouped the genes into categories: inflammation, detoxification, methylation, your energy, your nutrition. And we can go through, and I could tell you how much coffee you should drink a day, how quickly you metabolize caffeine, what foods you should be eating, what exercises you should be doing, how much sleep do you need to be able to recover. So instead of looking at any specific gene SNP in isolation, you're looking at them together and groups and how they work synergistically together. So every decision you make during the day, so let's say I decide I'm going to eat a donut for breakfast. We can look at your genetic makeup and see which genes get quote unquote turned on, that then create inflammation, that spike your blood sugar. So all of these genes, think of them as switches that go on and off. And some of them we want to turn on because they're beneficial to us, but some of them we want stay turned off. And when the gene is activated, we turn it on, it activates a protein that activates enzymes and hormones. So that's, the turning on of the gene is the very first thing that happens in your whole biochemical responses to food, to toxins, to water. So it's really the root cause of pretty much anything that you do.
That's very interesting. And so is this the synergistic, because that's a different way of looking at it than I had heard previously. So it's not just this, just to clarify, it's not just this genetic tendency towards potentially fulfilling a prophecy of your family, right? Or,
right.
And I also hear like the term like a spectrum of functionality within this too, which I think resonates with what you're saying. Right. That just because we have this marker, it doesn't necessarily mean that anything is determined, because we all have our own individual spectrums of how that's going to be presenting. And you're saying further that there's actually ways to mitigate that by not even turning on the gene when we do certain lifestyle habits every day. That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. It's called the term for it is epigenetics. It's how the decisions that you make influence how your genes express themselves. So you can have identical twins and they make different decisions all their lives. They're going to be activating different genes. And specifically with food, food is very, very powerful. The science is called nutrigenomics, and how the foods that you eat influence the genes, specifically those inflammatory genes. So there's like specific foods. So, you know, what will happen, how the process works is you do the kit. It's a saliva swab. You send the kit back into the lab. I get the report. I do my analysis. I get with a senior member of 3x4 Genetics. We go through my analysis, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, make sure I haven't missed anything. And then we get together. And by the end of our session together, you know what to eat, you know how to exercise, you know how much sleep you're supposed to get, how much caffeine you can have. And it's very actionable and it's very empowering, because now you know what decisions to make on a daily basis to turn on those beneficial genes and to keep the other ones kind of turned off.
So your technology and your particular product, this genetics one that's on your, you know, that you're doing. What is the name of it, please? 364?
It's 3x4 Genetics.
3x4, like peering in to see it. I'm like, I know you just said that. So 3x4 Genetics. I'm sure that this technology exists in different formats and by different companies. So can you take a moment to kind of tell us today how it maybe differentiates from other models out there? If it's a lone wolf out there right now, you know, what is it, something that is there a way that you guys are serving that nobody else seems to be doing?
It's the applicability of the data. There are a lot of companies out there that will give you the data, but you still won't know what to eat for breakfast, right? They're not going to give you those actionable steps. And Dr. Yael Jaffe, who created 3x4 Genetics, is really changing the paradigm, the mindset of how we think about our genetics. If you're talking to somebody at a genetic company and they say you have bad genes and you have good genes, run. If they call your genes mutations, run. That's old thinking. We are now progressing to the point that we understand there's a new mindfulness about our genetics. It's not good or bad. We're not going to like lay judgment on, you know, our very blueprint, you know, the thing that created us. We're going to remove the judgment. Like there's some reports that you get and they're color coded yellow, green, and red. Well, that's sending the signal you've got good genes and bad genes. You know, we have to get away from that thinking. You know, our genetics are who we are. And then we can take, you know, it's that empowering, that knowledge of how we can now work with our own bodies and that knowledge, especially like, you know, and that's what the difference is with 3x4. It's not just data, it's actionable, but it's all neutral. It's just knowledge.
I love that. Thank you for clarifying that, because that's a big thing. You know, it's yeah, and I think we've kind of discussed this now, like really thoroughly, that there's a spectrum of functionality that was, and that the genetic markers are not just this like sentence for something that might not even happen or express, because we're all unique individuals. And it sounds like a very holistic product, a very holistic minded product, helping people with their mindset as well and shifting into their new lifestyle changes. So you have LifeWave and your total body as well. Are either one of those like an independent coaching practice? Have you set up something like additional that you then support people in services through?
Your Total Body is the company that I created back in 2012. So it's just a little over 10 years, and it's the umbrella company for all my coaching, whether it was personal training or health coaching, and now with what I'm referring to. I've sort of created the space as a holistic longevity strategist. It's basically taking everything that I've learned in the last 10 years and just putting it under this holistic umbrella. And so all the coaching that goes along with it, what is it you need, right? Are you concerned with your blood sugar, your brain health, whatever it is? So that's the umbrella company. LifeWave is a company who has created stem cell activation patches. This is the cutting edge stem cell activation without injections, without drugs, without needles, without going out of the country, without spending a whole bunch of dollars to get stem cells into your body. It's a non-transdermal patch that you wear that activates your own body's stem cells so that the stem cells will go and repair your liver, your kidney. With autoimmune diseases, the underlying condition is a leaky gut. The stem cells will go and repair the leaky gut. So I use the LifeWave patches because they actually have a glutathione patch. They have a patch that reduces inflammation. So they have different patches also that do different things. Once I get your DNA and we see what your foundation is, then we'll know, what do we need? What decisions do we need to make about your nutrition, your supplementation? Do we need, let's activate some stem cells. Let's start repairing some damage, internal damage that we all have,
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that you have your own independent coaching practice, and that and I love how you said that's the umbrella for then, and it looks great actually on your screen, that you start with genetics and then you kind of move up to maybe LifeWave, and then you have this other like larger coaching capacity to support people in, you said, like optimize longevity, vitality, which in your terms are kind of what aging is, right?
Right. Let's just reduce as much damage as we can. And I'm certified as a brain health coach under Dr. Daniel Amen. And he has this saying, you don't know until you look. And that's why I really emphasize knowing what your DNA is, because if you don't look, you don't know. And it takes the guesswork out of, what supplements should I be taking, what foods I should be eating. Like if you're someone that's struggling to lose weight and you're exercising and you're not losing weight, it could be genetically, that's not the most efficient way for you to lose weight. And we'll know that once we look at your genetics.
Yeah, absolutely. So start with the knowledge of knowing, and then and I think people are moving more towards a desired optimized level because of the pandemic, shifting out of things, becoming more mindful of the fact that they were just working themselves way too much, causing way too much stress. They have some control over this. So yeah, it's a great time to be shifting into that kind of new conscious way of living, mindfulness, things like that. So I got a really good picture today of like how you started your career, how you're evolving. What are some of the goals you have going into the next 6 months in 2022?
Yeah, it's getting just really touching as many people as I can and empowering them. I still love the one-to-one sitting down, face to face with somebody and giving them the answers that they've never had, and watching their face light up and giving, when they finally get that knowledge and that empowerment, and then they can start making their decisions. So for the next 6 months, being on podcasts, just touching as many people as I possibly can to get the word out, to get the message out that, and you're right, the pandemic did raise our awareness levels, our mindfulness levels of how we should be reducing risk. And, it became kind of self-empowering. It really did. And that's one thing that good that came out of it. So that's one of my goals for this company, is just really touching as many lives as I can and spreading the word that you can control your destiny, your health. I want to turn it into a health management plan instead of a disease management plan.
Can brain health, you can change brain health at any age, right?
Oh, absolutely. I worked at a local cognitive decline institute for over a year, under the tutelage of a functional neurologist, and learned a lot. And yes, and I'm certified by Dr. Del Bredesen as a brain health coach. And there are so many things you can do to reverse cognitive decline. There really is. I have a client that I see every Saturday, and it's just amazing from week to week. And he's using the Life Wave patches, and it's from week to week, his alertness, how quick he's getting his wit back. You know, his focus is just seeing those changes. It just makes my heart happy. You know, when I see somebody just getting back to who they were. So yes, there's so much you can do with brain health. And the quicker that you can catch it, obviously the easier it is to reverse.
That's great. And what are some of the challenges you see coming up in the next 6 months to a year as you aim to work with more individuals and get your message out there?
It's the paradigm shift in the mindset. And you probably, you know, I don't know, you guys talk about this, but switching from the model that if I need to go talk to my doctor about this, okay? And we need doctors. You know, if I get hit by a bus, I need a doctor that knows how to reset my bones. But when it comes to holistic medicine, is what I would call it, I want these to be the primary modalities that we go to first, rather than the quote unquote calling them alternative. What people don't understand is when they go to their doctor, and we went through this a lot with people that had thyroid issues, because there's like 10 different markers that we need when you're getting a blood lab done for thyroid. And their doctors were like, well, we only need these 2. Well, it's because if a medical doctor does not know how to interpret a blood lab, they cannot ethically even order it. So what do they tell you? Oh, you're fine, you don't need it. It's establishing the trust and the general public, and being able to do this paradigm shift in the mindset that we can look to our own bodies for the answers that our body provides.
So is the challenge just the lack of ability for people to be able to know that truth, or is the challenge people not being able to access that first?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of, it's a generational thing, a lot. That willingness to open your mind up to other alternatives. And then, yeah, an access issue. They just don't have access to the information. And I think that's why programs like yours are so important.
Yeah, we're definitely sowing seeds, but I feel that resistance too. There needs to be something larger accomplished. So I really appreciate you kind of sharing that validation, because that's definitely true as we emerge and create. One of my favorite businesses, she's a Reiki master, her name's Sebadar. She's said like, well, no one else has set the path yet. You're out in front of it creating something new. So of course you don't know. And I mean, it's true. Like as we become aware, we're also forging this new reality, and we don't yet know what that looks like because we haven't been there yet. So I really appreciate your insights there. And I totally agree. Thank you so much.
We live in very exciting times. We do. From an energetic standpoint, you know, from the Reiki masters and all of us out there that are doing holistic modalities, this is a very exciting time, I think. You can feel the energy shifting.
I definitely do. And I mean, I see it in the statistics too, because like you, I like data.
Funny how we are like that.
Right? Like, there's still, and that's the thing, like we still have this like huge anecdotal record behind us. It's not just woo, we're like literally laying down foundations and data as we go. Recent data from LinkedIn News, they said that people are dissatisfied with their employers and how they're handling, their workplaces and the functionality. So people are really waking up, and they already felt the differences based on what they've been experiencing. And that's the huge thing. You can't just steal that away from people. They have those deep ingrained memories now of doing differently, feeling differently, and opening up to different things. So I love your story, and I love this conversation and about holistic genetic testing and how that work can not make us scared, not get us into a fear-based mentality, really open us up the conversation to how we can best optimize our daily life habits. Thank you so much for being here, Annie. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just think it, we're looking at our own DNA through the lens of curiosity and knowledge.
Yes, yes. So looking through the lens of curiosity and knowledge. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll, be sharing your story with the community. And it just sounds like there's so many ways that people, both practitioners who are in our community, might want to reach out to you to collaborate. Other podcasts that you might be able to get out of this and be on, but also, relationships with other practitioners who might want to invest in having your services or your products, or engagement about how they can bring that into their existing clinical practices, as well as the opportunity to just like engage with other consumers or practitioners who need this, because as health practitioners, we need to refill and revitalize our own wells, especially in these unprecedented times where for many holistic practitioners, they've been open since the pandemic started. A lot of the frontline workers, chiropractors, holistic doctors, acupuncturists have been open. I think a lot of people forget that and they need self-care too.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me. And, we're just going to continue the conversations.
That's
going to get the word out. Yep.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for opening up an advocacy with me today.
Thank you, Laura.